All right, guys, we're going to do a quick FanDuel read, and we're going to talk defense because we have talked the offense to death here. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum shift, and every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or a momentum flips after a turnover. So, if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Speaking of moving fast, Myles Garrett is now 1 sack away and still probably the best defensive end ever.
Yeah, half a sack from tying the record. He got credit for a half a sack. Whatever. It is what it is. It counts. I'm hoping he breaks the record by more than a half. I think he will. But obviously it's slowed down, guys, because we've seen the last couple of weeks teams are making a point to get rid of the ball quickly to avoid being killed by Myles Garrett. The Bills had a run-heavy offense. That was the game plan. Josh Allen only threw the ball 19 times. And I would say 3/4 of his 19 throws was like, snap it, throw it. I mean,
he even, when he referred to Myles after the game, he said game wrecker.
Well, on the play in question, Myles said Josh saw him and his eyes got real big when he figured out who it was. Yeah. And he basically tripped over his own feet. So there are not many players in the NFL who would make a quarterback go like this and then trip over his own feet at the goal line.
Yeah,
especially that quarterback.
95 is one of them.
Yeah, especially that quarterback.
You know what? That was like a legacy sack. That was like, you just got to give him credit because Josh knew he was there and he forced him to fall on his own. Yeah.
I will say, clearly the defense, I think they played a decent game yesterday. The first 3 drives, terrible, and it was terrible for 3 drives, fantastic the rest of the way. Overall, I'd say they were fine. But clearly we've seen these last 3 weeks, this is not the same defense. And you've only lost one guy, Malik Collins.
No, Denzel's out
Denzel didn't play this
And
game.
I think Denzel, I don't think we give him enough credit.
Right, but that wasn't a huge factor in this game because it was all the running. I mean, that was a big part of it.
I get that, but Denzel changes the game.
Right, but
he takes your best receiver out of the mix.
Counterpoint to that, Bull, they went to the right side almost every play.
Yes, they did.
Because there was no Denzel, and they just ran away from Myles.
That's right. Game. They were running him to the right, and he's pretty effective throwing that way. I'm surprised that the Browns didn't counter and just put Myles to the right.
I just think these last few weeks are I'm like, how good is Mason Graham? Is he that? We counted him as a definitive win.
Yeah.
I think I'm still leaning more towards that, but I don't think he's as good. And he clearly hasn't been as good the last couple of weeks without Malik Collins. But again, we always talk about how that line works hand in hand.
You've got to be a superstar.
Yeah, and it's early. It's early.
It's early.
He has shown flashes of that. We need to see more of it. Yeah. Guys, did you see, Jason, were you in postgame last night?
I was in the locker room, yeah.
Oh, no, in the podium, somebody asked Myles a question. And I really wish he would have answered it because I thought it was an interesting question. He's been asked a lot about records. And
he got pissed about the question.
We said next question. The question was, you've said before that records don't mean anything to you. The Hall of Fame doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You want to win.
Right, yeah.
What are your thoughts about being on a 3-12 team?
Chanel,
and you could see the temperature raising. He was like, I think he probably was in his best interest not to answer because he probably would have gone off. You could see he didn't like the question, and then he smoothly said next question. The reason I think that's a fair question is because Myles was asked in the pregame interview, which now all of a sudden players agree and teams allow. I'm sure it's part of the access that the networks want.
It's all the money.
And it drives me nuts. These in-game interviews with coaches, I can't stand.
Yeah, they're a waste of
I
time
can't stand when a player who is going through his pregame ritual and is getting into a mindset has to stop and talk to a reporter before the game. I just don't like it. You've got access to these guys all week long, or at least partially.
Right.
He did the pregame interview, and Myles said, I think the question was, it might have been postgame, I can't remember. He was asked, are you going to get the record today? And he goes, it's never been an issue. I've said at the beginning of the year, I'm going to get the record. And to me, that means that he does care about records. We saw he talked about how much the NFL Defensive Player of the Year meant to him. And
everybody cares about records.
Yeah, but don't then tell me you don't.
Yeah, I hear
just
you.
embrace it. Just embrace it. You know what? I would have been fine with this answer. I'm playing on a 3-11 football team. We're not going anywhere. I've got a chance for all-time immortality.
You could never say that.
You would never say that.
People would get him for that.
He would get destroyed for
what
that.
he said was, I'm getting the record. That's never been a question. I said at the beginning of the year, I'm getting the record.
But
and then after the game, when asked about that, he said, "Next question."
I have no issue with that.
I want him to tell the truth.
No, they don't. We don't want the truth.
Oh, I do.
I mean, some people, he would get killed for it. We all know that. And the thing is, like, what is he supposed to say at the end of the game? Like, you just lost. Like, you're not going to.
It might have been before the game.
You're not gonna talk about your individual record if you didn't get it. You just lost a game and you lost by 3 points. You thought you had the opportunity to win a football game, so you're not gonna say that. I think he did a good enough job of not getting too over the top and just going off. But I don't. I just don't. I don't understand the line of question. Like, I
thought the question was fine. He didn't want to answer.
I think the question was very fair.
I didn't think there was anything wrong with the question. And if he didn't want to answer, it's fine with me. I
think it was better for him that he didn't.
Yeah, but I don't have a problem with Jeff asking that question.
Because we probably wouldn't have liked
That's not an unfair question. And again, somebody asked. Shador got annoyed in question too. I don't know who asked him that. In that case, it wasn't Jeff.
Basically, it was, and sometimes this happens.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they do this intentionally, but sometimes questions are asked where you're almost asking the question to, or the interview subject to say something negative about the offense. They were basically saying, did you agree with that fourth down call?
He was asked that same question.
What are you going to say?
The quarterbacks get asked that all the time.
It's a standard question.
It is.
It's been
They
asked
get
to
it.
quarterbacks for 50 years.
And it is fair, too.
It's weird here because of all the nonsense and bullshit that's gone on all season long.
You're right.
That's what makes it
By the way,
weird. But there's nothing wrong with the question.
In terms of guys wanting guys to be honest, it's funny because I was talking with Aditi about this. Because last week Joe Burrow was asked about like not being happy. I don't even know how that first came up. And
I think it was, "Are you having fun?" And he said,
so
"No,
he said he wasn't
having
fun." And they were like, "Do you envision not being in Cincinnati next year?" He said, "No." He's like, and people said the question was asked, "Well, could you ever see yourself not being, or have you ever thought about being somewhere else?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've thought about it," or something like that.
Right.
And that became a whole big story.
Sure.
And like Joe basically said to Aditi, he was like, "Well, doesn't everybody think about all these?" Like
Right.
he didn't think of it as he's a very honest guy in press conferences.
Yeah.
Now, because he's mostly, as an individual at least, been extremely successful, it's never really anything controversial. But he's extremely honest.
what I liked about him, though? He
But
went
people
out this
still made a
week-
big deal about it.
He went out this week with a, storm of controversy swirling around him and bawled the hell out, and basically just said, "I'm still Joe Burrow."
We be acting like we be wanting a real answer. Like, and then they give
we do want it.
I mean, we
people
do.
are critical.
But
if it's
people,
what-
if it
you
ain't
give a
what they're
real
looking
answer
for,
sometimes. Yeah.
If it ain't what they're looking for, they're gonna get you for it, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, "Oh, Joe, you can't say that. You're the leader," and you're like, "Bro,
Yeah.
but I thought you want me to be
I
honest."
love honesty. I love transparency. I love it.
And-
We rarely get it in sports.
And plus, you gotta take a look at the consideration. I like Shador guy. I like the fact that he got hot with it because he told people before. The line of questioning when you asking me about play calling, I'm not gonna talk about play calling with Kevin Stefanski and this offensive staff. It's already a situation where we know that the writing might be on the wall that Kevin Stefanski ain't gonna be here or he's not gonna be the coach. So I'm not going to do anything. I'm not saying nothing that's going to disparage or put any smut on his name because I understand we're in a position where it's testy and that's still my coach. I'm not about to say nothing. So if you want to ask me about play calling, I'll tell you what we designed and what we practiced. But in terms of whether I like it or not, I'm not answering that line of questioning. And I thought I told y'all last week what type of time I was on. I like the energy because I'm not about to sit here and do this with y'all. If you want to ask Kevin Stefanski about the play call, go ask him. We already know what he's going to say. He ain't going to tell you nothing. So don't ask me about it, ask him.
I do think it's a fair question to ask the quarterback. I just don't
course
expect an
it
answer.
is.
Yes.
You're rare. Now, here's the thing, and this is what everybody's going for.
If you saw Shador on the street, wouldn't you say, "Man, what'd you think about that?" Or "I didn't like that"?
Of course,
or,
it's the question the fan would ask.
Yes.
It's and I get why you ask those questions. You have to ask those questions. And I don't think that they're always, we're in a click generation. That's what we're in. If you're going to put a video out, you're going to write a headline that's going to be clickbait.
I don't know that I agree with that.
Okay, clickbait might be
There
too
are
strong a
people who
term,
do.
but
There are people who,
there is a
for sure.
school of thought. We teach it upstairs. It's taught in the business with digital, especially because there's a million people that are putting content out. You have to separate yours from everyone else's. And if you ask a question and Shedeur talks about his honest feelings about the play call, your headline alone is going to get you 1 million clicks. Shedeur's second guesses, and that's what they're looking for. That's the society we live in. When you put a video up on your other podcast, I don't know if you do them or if someone at the company.
The headlines?
Yeah, the headlines.
It's funny that you say that because I'll give a quick example, Anthony, then we can get back.
There is a strong school of thought here.
On Friday, I had Mary Kay on my podcast.
Yeah.
And we got into a debate. She thinks Berry and Stefanski should keep their jobs. I think they should be fired.
Right.
Almost the whole podcast was about that. And I don't do my headlines, right?
And there's a reason.
And the guy who does the headlines for my podcast, I didn't realize this at first, put a headline saying, has Shedeur's inconsistencies led to the coaches getting fired? Which we didn't even talk about.
Has nothing to do with that.
And
but
I
you
was
know
like,
what?
I was pissed.
And you should be, but
because people were getting mad without reading. And so we changed it. And the guy apologized.
Yeah, and that's fair, and it was right of you to ask that. But I will just tell you, from having sat in on these seminars and being a part of these seminars, it's similar to T's writing at ESPN. I always used to say, whoa, we're not delivering that.
Yeah.
Find out who the Browns turned to net. We're not going to find out. We're not.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but it's intriguing. I don't care if it's intriguing or not.
I don't like that.
If you put as a headline, something that is not delivered in your product, you have every right to stand up and say, wait a minute, that's false advertising.
We have a whole...
But that's where we are. And the reporters now, and I'm not saying all of them because most of you guys operate on but there are independent reporters out there that don't have the power of the Athletic behind them, that are doing everything they can to get whatever traction they can. And if they get an athlete aside from the scrum, and they ask this athlete a question and they get an answer, they're sitting on gold because now they can, first of all, it's exclusive.
Yeah.
But they can put in their headline, Shedeur second guesses Stefanski.
Right.
How many clicks do you think that's going to get?
Yeah, exactly.
Let me help you with that.
We have
seven digits.
We have a whole department of a search engine optimization
We do
team.
too.
Yeah.
Yep, it's a game.
But it's not.
It's a game.
It's not, and they've actually called me a couple times and I told them, no, you got to change it.
Good for them for asking your opinion.
But they want certain words in there.
Sure.
But they want Shedeur in there.
Right,
absolutely.
They want to. I even said to the guys, I said, let's put in Shedeur in the headline as often as we can, but not when it's not
shoehorn
legit.
it in there where it doesn't fit.
I've changed a few.
Especially, that was a great conversation between you and Mary Kay.
Right.
And by the way, it's promotable on its own, but here's what Shedeur has become. What Tim Tebow was when he was playing in the NFL at ESPN. He has become lightning. There are people that are just searching Shedeur.
Yes, 100%.
And if your content doesn't come up if it doesn't have that in the headline.
Right.
So the SEO, the search engine optimization department at Tegna is a behemoth.
Yeah.
Independently at each of the stations, they very much work and understand the power of discussing how long have we been talking about Shedeur Sanders?
Anthony,
and the reason for it is, I'm
we're
just going
not
to be
done
blunt.
yet.